Welcome back to Why Write. In this video, we will discuss the writing process, which is a series of steps used to create a document. The writing process is not only used in English composition courses, it can also be used in your other courses as well, and not just college courses. So our objectives in this video, we will go over the pre-writing process of the writing process, drafting, revising, proofreading, and editing. Pre-writing. So if you notice, I have pictures of hieroglyphs, and the first thing that I tell students is that writing has been around for a very long time. Definitely during the ancient Egyptians, and it also predates that as well. So writing will not go away anytime soon. And on that note, if you look at your cell phone, you also have characters and symbols that represent words. And so it's in the same form that writing is now coming back around to the symbols and the characters to represent words and sometimes sentences, right? So just know that the process of writing will be here even long after you decide you don't like English composition courses, right? But pre-writing is just basically you are generating a topic and a thesis statement. It's just brainstorming techniques. You want to, and depending on the rhetorical mode, that will guide your brainstorming. So if you're writing a narrative, you are pretty much just brainstorming from your own personal story. If you're trying to write a research paper, you'll do some preliminary brainstorming on what the basic knowledge that you have on that topic, and then of course you will begin to do your research. But with the pre-writing, you're just generally thinking about the topic and getting some ideas together on that particular topic. And then also you can begin to create outlines or graphic organizers to begin to start structuring your paper. All right, so next is the drafting. You're going to compose a complete first draft with a clear introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion. You're going to develop some sort of logical argument or just a logical statement with supporting details. And you're also going to use appropriate vocabulary and sentence structure. What does this mean? So when you're using appropriate vocabulary, that just means you're using appropriate words for your particular topic. And I like to remind students that when you're writing, and this is just the pre-writing, so of course you don't have to do anything formal here, but as you continue to think ahead with your paper, any words that you include with your topic that may seem obvious to you may not be common knowledge to your audience. So you also want to probably look up synonyms that have the same meaning, but maybe a little bit more familiar to your audience as well when you're looking at vocabulary. And when you're looking at sentence structure, you have to decide when you're going to use a simple sentence versus a complex sentence and when you will mix that up. And this is not during the drafting process, but I'm just having you to think ahead as you prepare to complete your draft for your essay. Revising. This is a very important step in the writing process that sometimes we miss because we sometimes lump revising, proofreading, and editing all together, which they do interlock and they are a bit interchangeable. However, revising is that first eye on the paper where you're evaluating the overall organization, the flow. You're looking at the strength of your thesis statement. You're looking at what you could improve in terms of your vocabulary, sentence structure, your clarity and conciseness. You're going to consider your audience, who your audience is, and how the feedback will be received within your writing. And I just mentioned that as well. You want to always think about your audience and how you're coming across to them. Are you writing for an audience of children as opposed to teenagers or adults? And if so, your vocabulary needs to mirror that as well. So revising is an overall first look. Proofreading, you're going to get a little bit more in depth. You're going to correct any grammatical errors. You're going to check for spelling mistakes. And you're going to ensure that there's proper citation, the formatting if applicable. This depends on whether or not you're including source information. Last but not least is the editing. You're going to conduct a final review to catch any remaining errors in your mechanics and formatting. So the editing is that check mark that now it's time to submit it. So if you know anything about publishing, when people are in the process of publishing articles or publishing books, it has to go through who? Ding, 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 an editor. So the editor has to make sure that everything is perfect. All of the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And so sometimes we can't always catch our own mistakes. So that's when you have a peer review where your peers can catch minor grammar errors and just minor sentence and spelling errors. And then also a tutor or also your professor. So you can do a general edit, but I also advise you to allow others to review your paper as well, because they will be able to catch mistakes that you won't necessarily catch. All right, so let's get started. Let's write a paper, right? So again, consider your audience to whom you write. It helps determine your language, tone, and diction. Consider your purpose. Why are you writing? Are you writing to persuade? As I mentioned earlier, what rhetorical situation is going on? Are you writing a narrative? Are you writing a comparison and contrast? Are you writing a cause and effect? So those types of things will help you consider your audience, the purpose, and your main idea, what your thesis statement will potentially be. Remember, the thesis is the last sentence within your introduction, and it is almost like the topic sentences in the paragraphs, but not so much. And when I say almost, because your thesis statement is a specific statement and your topic sentence, they're general statements. For example, if I had a thesis statement saying that in the world of spiritual practices, many women love to do rituals to the moon. They love to write out their intentions. And they also love to give offerings to the ancestors, right? So that would be your specific thesis statement. Now, your topic sentences, they will be pulled from those statements, right? So give offerings to the moon, that will be a general topic sentence that you will then develop within that paragraph. But the thesis statement must be specific. And I always try to encourage students to include three specific points within the thesis statement, because that will always help guide your essay, your paper. All right, let's talk about the essay structure. Your title. The title should always be original. That's number one. It says a lot about your essay. So if I told you to write an essay discussing spiritual practices in modern day women, you wouldn't use that title. You want to use an original title, something that's unique to you, because you are now the author of that. You will not underline or place quotations or use one word for your title. However, you will capitalize all important words. After your title, you have your introduction. Your introduction should capture the reader's interest. It should really pull your reader in, focusing the audience. It helps to move the paper along. And it also kind of sets the stage for the organizational principle or format of the paper. And remember what I said a moment ago, your thesis statement is the last sentence within the introduction because this sets the foundation for your paper and specifically for the flow of your paper. Your thesis statement, as I mentioned earlier, it should be very specific. It is the main idea. It can contain a plan of development and is usually broken down into 3 subtopics. However, never announce what it's about. So this means in this paper, I will. It can't be too narrow. It can't be too broad. So too narrow would be in spiritual practices, women usually do rituals to the moon. That can be a little narrow because it can limit what you can discuss. However, you can specify that if you include 3 more subtopics within that. It can't be too broad where you just mention women in spiritual practices, right? Where are we going with this? So that's why it's important to be very specific, but not too narrow, not too broad. You got to find that sweet spot. It can't focus on more than one topic. So we can't focus on those spiritual practices in women and then also talk about men's health, right? And your ideas can't overlap. Remember, within the essay structure, your body paragraphs is the meat, it's the substance, and at least have 3 body paragraphs. Within my English composition introduction video, I discussed how usually within composition 1 courses, your body paragraphs are about 3 to 4 paragraphs. However, it depends on the rhetorical situation, again, of your paper and what your professor requires. You may need more body paragraphs. Your supporting statements should focus on facts, examples, illustrations, and specifics. Your concluding idea or statement, it should be a clincher. So your concluding statement can offer some sort of solution. Really make people think and dive deeper into your subject. Within the paragraphs, especially the body paragraphs, your ideas should be bridged by connectors, making your writing smooth. So your ideas should be coherent. They should be unified. And again, you should have a concluding paragraph that sums up and ties up the entire paper. And let's talk about revising again. You want to look at the organization of your essay and select the most appropriate way to make the essay look better. And also the organization, when you think about it, it helps it flow better as well. So that's about it for the writing process. As you begin to think about your topics for your essays, I want you to build your essay like the Great Pyramid, 1 block at a time. Take your time and go through the writing process. This not only helps you to be able to write an effective and efficient paper, it will also help as you continue throughout your college journey, where you will also be writing additional papers to set up a good, healthy practice of going through the writing process so that you can strengthen your writing skills. All right, so for more information or questions or comments, leave comments below. But definitely for more information, continue to review my YouTube channel or take a look at my textbook, Why Write. And again, for questions, go ahead and leave a comment.